Hello and welcome to The Side Woo. This is your host, Thibault, helping you navigate the wild and mysterious path that is the creative life. Join me as I ask our guests about the tools they use to help them survive in the creative wilderness. I'm so excited to be in your studio with your art.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. It's a
pleasure. So, just a little bit about Samantha. She's CCA alumni. I actually didn't print out your bio, so I don't know if you can give me like a 2-sentence, like, where did you go to school and what have you been doing since?
I was born in 1994.
Oh my gosh.
I went
Shut up, get the fuck out.
Okay, I'm just gonna leave my own home then.
Yeah, totally. I guess I'll get the fuck out.
I went to Vassar College for undergrad, graduated class of 2016, went for art history. And then I graduated.
Oh, not even art?
No.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, I got like more of an art historical foundation, and then I went to CCA, California College of the Arts, which we are both alumni of.
Yeah, hey, shout out.
Shout out, swag. And graduated that in 2016. I've shown with galleries such as STEMS Gallery, Arsenal Contemporary,
Gladstone. I know you had
Sebastian Gladstone, and yeah.
Cool. So yeah, you've been pretty active since you graduated.
I have, yeah.
Yeah, cool. And well, okay, that's kind of like context for the listeners, and then I will get into that more in a bit. But what we always ask is the first question is, what sign are you?
I'm an Aquarius.
Okay, so I know this because we were talking about it before, and she said that her birthday is on the 26th of January. And then I was like, oh, one of my good friends from home is about the same birthday. We started talking about this friend, Jenna, shout out. And then Jenna texted me out of nowhere, like,
yeah, Twilight Zone music.
It was crazy because I haven't talked to her since like early January, after the holidays and stuff. And yeah, that was wild. Yeah, all right. So we got through that.
God is in the studio tonight.
God is in the studio. The face of God is in the studio. Yeah. Okay, so maybe that's a good. I always invite God to be on the podcast, but it's hard. You don't always know if they have shown up yet. She has shown up. Maybe that's a good starting point. Like growing up and now, what would you say your kind of like spiritual belief system is?
Well, I am very much Jewish, very much proud of that. I don't like keep kosher or go to temple all the time, but I do definitely feel the spirit inside of me. I feel like a connection with the rituals and the culture, and I'm very proud to be Jewish, and that's how I've been my whole life. I went to a Jewish day school growing up. So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And where was that again?
LA.
Oh, here. Yeah.
Yeah. I grew up born and raised LA.
Nice.
LA Jew.
So does that differentiate from East Coast Jew or Midwestern Jew, which actually my friend Jenna is also of the Jewish persuasion.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Jenna.
In Minneapolis, I know you and Jenna have a lot more in common.
That's crazy because I recently spoke with people who were from the Midwest and didn't know a single Jew.
Oh.
And they asked me if it was offensive to call someone a Jew. And I was like, what do you mean by that? Why would that be offensive?
Right. Totally. I do feel like I've used it before in a context where I'm like, that didn't feel right to say. Like,
I mean, if you're like, what a fucking Jew.
Yeah, like I didn't say like that, but I did say.
I don't think you would.
No. Well, so my uncle was Jewish. This is totally like a non sequitur, but it's coming in. My uncle was Jewish. He was adopted by a famous like New York based adoption agency. Mm-hmm. They like took him on as a foster child and adopted him to a Jewish family, and that was kind of their like specialty because they were a Jewish family that ran it.
Okay.
Turns out he was actually not Jewish at all. He was Italian. This has just come
Very
out.
similar.
And then they changed it so he was Jewish sounding, with his last name being Jewish sounding, so that he would be more like appealing to Jewish families. But he was raised
Wow.
Jewish, and we always thought like he was our Jewish uncle.
That's so interesting that.
Yeah, well, and then the reason I brought that up is because in Minnesota, where his daughter now lives, used to be kind of like a sunset town, and they didn't allow any Jews at the country club.
Oh my God.
And I was telling someone that, and I said like, you know, no Jews allowed, and I felt like, ooh, I didn't like the way that sounded, but
Okay, but you were like
it was in context.
metaphorically quoting a country club.
Absolutely.
Of yours.
But then the best part is, this is super random, he ended up having his memorial there at this country club, and I was like,
The ultimate fuck you.
exactly, and
I love it.
he has like a bench in that part of town, and I was just like, perfect.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, like tie it up with a bow. So anyway, awesome. And do you feel like that has influenced your work at all?
I'm not sure if it's influenced my work, but it's certainly influenced me as a person. I mean, not just like the Jewish faith, which I'm definitely like involved in and into, but I definitely feel like the spirituality, a presence of the other, like the, you know, heavenly, non-earthly people in my life.
Yeah,
And that
through the Jewish faith.
through the Jewish faith, but also just in general.
In
Like,
general.
I mean, one of the major people that I feel in my life is my dad, who passed away like 13 years ago. But not even like through temple going do I feel that. It's more through like the connection with my family and just like little signs here and there, and that make me feel a certain way.
Yeah, you were saying he has like a sign associated with him that shows up.
A butterfly. So every time my family and I see a butterfly, we're like,
Did you
Sam-
have like a specific one that was really like, holy crap?
yes. Okay, so this is a little bit morbid, but the night that he died, we were outside in the backyard of my childhood home, and there was this black butterfly with white little markings on it that stayed there all night long.
Whoa, okay.
Butterflies don't hang out in the night, really.
They
They defer to their moths, kind
They
of spooky
famously float around like
Yes.
and fly.
Exactly.
Yeah, they don't just
So,
stick somewhere.
the fact that this butterfly, which was enormous, I had like
Oh,
very
wow.
particular markings,
Yeah.
stayed there all night long, just felt very appropriate and very like intentional. And my mom and I recently saw that butterfly. We were on a walk with our dogs, and the butterfly followed us all the way from like this popular street back to my mom's house when I was staying there for the fires. So it felt like my dad was like protecting you ladies.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, we're in LA, so there's the whole fire situation. Do you want to quick share like how that was for you?
I mean, it was obviously insane. The fires thankfully did not reach my house, but they were super close. They were above the 134 freeway, and my house and art studio is like a mile below the 134 freeway. So if it had jumped the freeway, it would have been really scary, especially because I realized when I evacuated and I was at my mom's house that like all of my paintings are extremely flammable because I varnished them with an aerosol matte varnish. So
And all of that stuff is like pure flame.
yeah,
Explosion.
I'm pretty sure the entire bottle is like, like caution.
Yeah, like everything will start on fire.
Yeah.
I think people who aren't here, I was even like 10 miles from where the west side of the Altadena like border, and that felt close because you could see it, and
So
knowing
scary.
that all of it is like mountain in between where I am, and that we are just like Altadena and Tahunga, where it's like one errant thing flying off the mountain could set the whole neighborhood on fire.
With the winds, it's just like, it was all
It
so
was-
erratic and.
Yeah, you couldn't predict. It was really just like an action.
Yeah.
Faith that, or like you know, there but for the grace of God kind of situation where any of us could have been targeted, you know, by the wind.
Absolutely, yeah.
By the wind, it's such an asshole.
Or by like literal arsonists.
Well, that
for
too.
Adding to the fires, which just makes me sick to my stomach.
Yesterday, someone set fire probably to the Del Taco by my house. And
Why Del Taco?
and I
What a
know
great product.
there was like a trash fire. I know. I'm like, you could have eaten free tacos out of that trash. No, I'm just kidding. I'm gonna take that out. But
so good, any of us.
you know, like I'm not above it. Okay, that's why I'm saying it is like we could have all gone in there later, but you had to ruin it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I saw that in the distance, and there was huge plumes of smoke yesterday in my neighborhood, and I was like,
God.
"Oh my god!" And I texted like 3 people and was freaking out. But
I'd like
anyway,
to see a trash fire, but for some reason it feels like so LA. Like
Yeah.
a dumpster fire. The only thing that's more LA than a dumpster fire is like a palm tree on fire.
yeah, which
It's just like,
yeah, brutal.
brutal.
Well, we're praying that the fires are now on their way out. This
They're
season.
almost entirely contained.
Yeah,
So that's
okay.
really amazing
That's
news.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so anyway, for those on YouTube and not just listening to the podcast, we have a little guest here
Yes.
that I think we should introduce officially.
This is my better half / worst nightmare. Hippie Rosenwald, my dog.
Well, she's the star of the show. Go to YouTube, check out Pippi. She's like the cutest pug ? With like long hair.
She's a long-haired French bulldog
There we go.
that I got
Okay.
3 months ago.
In this amazing dove gray color with like slightly darker accents
Yeah.
to her face.
She's like a natural blonde with like 5 o'clock shadow.
Totally.
How I like to think about it.
So anyway, definitely worth a look. But you know, given that we're in your beautiful studio, I want to waste no more time and really talk about your work.
Yeah.
Your work is so gorgeous and so detailed.
Cute.
And actually, the first time I saw it was in London, and you were doing a show with someone who was running like pop-up space there, and I'm totally blanking. She's an Italian woman.
Eve Lieb.
Eve
the name of
Lieb was the
gallery.
gallery.
Her name was Selena.
Selena, yes. Love you, Selena. Yeah, so anyway, that's like where I first saw your work, and then when I moved to LA, you were showing, ran into you all over. But huge fan. I love the sense of humor, and I love your kind of like fashion sensibility. There's always this kind of fierce, like contemporary fashion moment thing happening, but like in a satire kind of comic book style way.
Yeah.
It's
It's funny that you
yeah.
say fierce fashion.
because there's always a little bit of violence, I think is why it's said fierce. It's like there's always maybe a
I
little
love that.
danger involved.
I love the word fierce because at first I thought you said fear.
Oh,
And
no.
That kind of speaks to me because a lot of what I draw comes from a place of fear. Like fear that I'm not fashionable enough. Or like fear that I'm not like hot enough.
Oh,
Or like talented enough.
yeah.
And I think a lot of that is like growing up in LA and having so many friends that have like famous parents and seeing all, all these like gold standards for beauty and perfection. And
The
it
scale of
creates
success
fear.
here is actually, you don't realize it until you leave or until it, like for me coming here, I had to readjust what was like happening in my brain. Like, oh, you could do XYZ at this global scale here. And
Right.
and people do, and those are people that you're competing against.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, for sure.
The stakes are high.
They're very high here. Yeah.
But yeah, I think the people generally are so underrated. Like people are like, oh, people in LA are so superficial. But I don't
Yeah.
think that's true. I think there's just like such a big culture around beauty and perfectionism and
There's superficial
Hollywood.
people everywhere, honestly. Like you can
Exactly.
go to any town in America.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be, yeah.
yeah. But that's like a big part of my works, like
Yeah.
keeping up and the fear that you're not keeping up. And so fears.
And without that, it kind of reminds me of Poog. Have you ever listened to the podcast Poog? It's a podcast, these two comedians, and they talk about, it's like goop spelled backwards.
Oh my God, that's funny.
And they talk about, it's not about the destination of achieving perfect beauty or thinness or whatever. It's about the journey of always like needing to fill the hole and like getting the new product. And
Yeah.
with you, it's like very much like getting that shoe or that like,
Yeah.
you know, accessory or the right outfit and then doing the thing. And
Yeah. And then the second you get that new thing that's going to set you apart and also make you fit in, there's a different trend. And then you're still out of the loop and you're still out of the,
although I do feel like your characters always feel like they have a lot of agency. And so while maybe they come from a place of fear, I never feel like your characters are victims. I always feel like they are like, if anything, the villain of the story and ready to take people out.
Yeah, I like to make my figures everything that I want or like aspire to be or have. And I also like remove most of the time their identity, like their face, their eyes, their expressions, to make them like more universalized as like, this is it.
Like
I'm
not
not
one
bit about
person.
who you are, but you are it, like looking at your whole fit.
Can you talk a little bit about your process? I wonder if you could like hold one of your paintings. Here, I'll hold this up to the camera.
Okay.
Do you wanna? For those who aren't familiar, this is a good one. Nice detail.
Yeah, so my process is I use colored pencil on canvas, which is slightly atypical for canvas work.
Yeah, I've
But-
never seen it to the extent that you do.
Yeah.
How do you get like, what do you use for your surface if it's not a secret?
It's not a secret. I would never gatekeep how to do anything because
That's very generous.
I have encountered people that gatekeep, and I think it's like, if you can do it better than me, be my guest. Like,
Oh, snap.
no, like I can do it the best, but like I would love to see another person do it
Yeah,
and like prime it.
that
better
still
than I
sounds
do.
like, oh, snap. Like, if I would really genuinely like you to do better than me, and it's not gonna happen. No,
It could.
I get what you're saying. though.
I like
Yeah.
it could happen that someone figures out a better technique than I have, and I would love to hear about it, you know?
Right, that's true. I mean, that's the thing is like, if you do well and I know what you're doing, I can also learn from you instead of you.
Yeah, like I think all artists should help each other and lift each other up instead of like being pit against each other. I feel like
Yeah,
the way that like beauty culture pits women against each other,
the scarcity.
gallery culture pits artists against each other. It's like, there's room enough for us all.
There is, and maybe not in the same city or with the same type of gallery or whatever,
Right.
but everyone has something that's ultimately meant for them, I feel.
Absolutely.
And, you know, karma's real, you know, if you go after your career with a like scarcity mentality, you're gonna get it. Like, you're gonna get more people in your life who are like that. I know.
Yeah, and that's like spooky town. Like I would hate to fill my life with people that are like, oh, I'm gonna cut you if you like get this opportunity.
Yeah, and what would that even look like in the art world? Like people cutting you,
Just being
just
like
talking
fake
shit.
hell. I don't know.
I know, I'm like, we're overall like the stakes are weirdly kind of low in the art world because nobody else outside of the art world cares.
Yeah, but everyone in the art world is like,
So cares.
it
Yeah.
could be a reality TV show. Like it's so crazy.
That's what we do here inside window.
Oh yeah.
So how long does like a bigger painting? So we're gonna talk a little bit about this painting behind me, but you can see like the edge is probably about 3.5 feet. Is that right? Like tall.
It's 4 feet tall and 7 feet wide.
So how long does a painting drawing like that take you?
It depends on the amount of detail, but because it's all colored pencil, which is
Yeah.
like a very small
Right,
pencil.
exactly.
Typically, like if I'm hurrying or doing it like religiously every day,
Yeah.
like a month for that size,
And what is religiously every day?
like 7, 8 hours a day.
Wow. Yeah.
But if I'm doing less work than that, then definitely longer.
And do you keep like a regular studio schedule to just keep your rhythm going, or what's that look like?
I typically have, but recently I've had this one show and that you see behind us, and it has been postponed a couple of times. So I have had more time to work on it. So I have less of a rigid schedule because I have more time.
Which is welcome, but has that happened to you before, this specific show where you've had something postponed or delayed or canceled?
Never. The only time I've had a show that was like changed from the jump date was when I changed it. Which was one time. But I'm very much like, if someone gives me a deadline, like
Yeah.
I'm so fucking anal that like I will achieve if it means that I'm like no longer alive at the end of it. Like the meetings will be ready.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is the first time this has happened where there's been some postponement, and so my whole kind of schedule has been thrown off. My ability to like change has been a little thrown off, but well, the work is done, so
It is now. I mean,
party rock.
do you feel like, given that, I don't know, it's hard to imagine in other industries where the creator of goods and services has so few protections that someone is asked to make potentially 6 figures worth of like goods without any guarantee that they will eventually be shown in the marketplace that is the gallery.
Right.
So did it ever occur to you at the beginning to like get something in writing, or like, what do you think would be a good solution for artists having gone through this as a protection, or like, what do you wish would happen to make you feel like your time is not something that you're just giving away on faith? Because you are kind of entering into this like faith-based relationship where you're like, I'm trusting you, and you are theoretically, saving time for me, trusting that I'm going to produce the work and not just like cancel last minute or go to another gallery. So like, what do you think is a good solution to this?
I don't know. I feel like it's kind of like in movies when someone arranges like a pickup, like when there's like some sort of like drug mafia type exchange, and like both parties
real shady business.
Both parties have their gun out and they're meeting up, and like, one party has the money and the other party has like the briefcase or whatever.
Oh yeah,
and they're both like pushing it down at the same time, but like with
they're like,
I feel like that's like every time you do a show that like that's exactly what it is.
Dark. Yeah, that's real.
But I think something
I would love to know if anyone listening has an opinion on this subject, because it is one of those things, like I've had shows canceled on me for both valid and slightly less valid reasons of the gallery, and I was luckily not out like a bunch of work at the time, but that was potential income I could have been counting on.
Shady as hell to do that.
It is, let's say, shady as hell. Yeah, I'm gonna like definitely keep that one in.
PG version. Yeah, I think it's important to be really open for the gallery and the artist at the beginning of like what is expected of me and how I can deliver that, whether that involves like a contract or not.
And do you think that the conversation of rescheduling, does it usually for you happen over email, or is it a phone call or a Zoom?
Well,
in this case,
it's been via phone call.
Okay. So you get a little back and forth and you can talk it out.
Right. It's like a little like, comforting what might be upsetting. But it's still upsetting because especially, I don't know, maybe other people are better at dealing with like change, but I get very like stuck on like, this is the deadline. This is what's going to happen. This is, and then when that changes, especially in a professional structured setting.
Well, if you're on a production schedule, especially as someone who has a rigorous, practice and your work requires a lot of labor.
Yeah.
That is free up until the point that it's not.
Exactly. So it's, it's just, it kind of like rattles my whole situation.
Yeah. But your situationship. The gallery.
Yeah.
It's like a situationship with the gallery because you're like,
I'm like, what even are we like?
Exactly. You're drinking your white wine.
Yeah. I know, like he likes me one minute and then the next he's like ghosting me. So
don't be like that. Galleries.
Yeah. Because galleries would have nothing inside of them without
art. So that's something my dad always used to tell me.
That gets easily forgotten.
It does. My dad always used to tell me, because he would book bands and stuff. He's like, they need you as much as you need them, if not more.
Yeah.
Like, yes, they need talented artists who fit a certain thing. So if you're not that, maybe they don't need you quite as much. But like, if you're making amazing work and you know it, they need you and you
clap
need
your
to
hands.
Yeah, clap your hands. Yeah, exactly. Everyone at home.
Yeah.
If you're making amazing work, clap your hands. No.
I'm gonna respectfully not clap.
Yeah, thank you. Audience members here. Feel free to jump in. I'm glad we haven't lost anyone yet. So okay, moving on. Yeah, I did ask what tell other creatives. Okay, switching gears completely from the material to the metaphysical world. What is the most mystical thing that has ever happened to you?
There have been a lot of moments of a belief in another dimension, another realm. But I remember when I was a child, maybe I was like 10 or something. I remember being in my bedroom, like sitting on my bed, and then seeing the face of God like come up to me. And like I felt it, like wind on my face. And then I went to tell my parents that I had just seen God. And they were like, yeah, you are literally like Jesus Christ, but like the real deal.
Right. So lots of questions. What did it look like?
This is very disappointing, but I don't even remember. I just remember seeing.
You were like, it wasn't that
like, whatever. I see a lot of faces.
Totally. I've seen a face before.
Yeah. It was I remember it being like white, like cloudy kind of feeling.
Okay.
Okay,
next question.
Other than that, nothing particular. It was just more about like the feeling of it. Like I was like, oh, that's God.
And it was not a ghost.
Maybe it was a ghost.
Are you sure it wasn't a ghost?
I bet. Literally no idea. I was 10.
Okay.
It could have been anything.
It could have been anything. That's why I'm like, what else? What other information do we have? Did it make a sound?
No.
Did it have a message for you?
That's a hard question because it didn't verbally say anything to me.
But like, like sensey.
There was a feeling of it, like it rushed towards me.
Was it scary?
No.
Oh.
I think it was kind of like whatever about it, but it did like approach me. So I think if there was any message that I felt, it would be that it is there.
That God is there.
That there is, whether it's God or some other like being or spirit or spirits in general, like the message was like, we're here.
Oh.
And then again, when my dad passed away, which we talked about earlier, and that's how sometimes I see the
butterflies,
supernatural.
yeah.
I remember like at my dad's funeral, sitting, preparing to give my speech, and I felt like wind or energy like near me. And ever since he passed away, I felt with the butterflies, but also with other things, I felt like very strong energy. So,
I mean, the face of God, did that like change the direction of your life in any way? Or like, how did your parents react?
my parents were so like jazzed. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because they were, I
Well,
mean, they
who would
raised
not
me
be?
a little Jewish girl. And clearly, the way that they raised me had a strong impact on how I felt. And I think they were like proud and happy, especially my dad. I remember like coming in and he was like asking me a lot of questions.
Yeah.
And was like trying to be like, gentle about it, but like seemed really
But
excited.
not scared or freaked out that you might have a ghost in your house by any means.
Oh my God.
Because you weren't scared.
I wasn't scared. I was just like, I think I just saw the face of God.
Yeah. Fascinating.
But I think, and then my dad was so braggy about everything I would do. He was such a proud dad, which is cute. But
Which I guess you're in LA, because I'm trying to imagine my dad bragging to his friends, and he was also always telling everybody everything. In Minnesota, okay, my daughter had this like spiritual experience and saw the face of God. Like, no.
I'd be like, all right, like
When I told him Google stuff, he would be like, oh, that's nice, and then thought it was totally crazy.
that's interesting.
But then I had a medium later tell me, oh, well, of course you were right, but at the time I was just being nice.
Wow.
So, you know, put down your pipe. No.
And yeah, smoke it.
So I guess you'll have to find out when you're done.
Yeah,
whether or not
we're gonna have a convo.
the God thing
Yeah.
is real. Yeah, or who it was. I mean, it was real, but
No, for sure. I mean,
and so have you heard of anyone else having something similar? Like, did you Google once you got old enough to Google about it?
honestly, I hadn't thought about that until like 6 months ago. I was hanging out with my friends, CCA graduates.
Okay.
We had like a little girls trip, and we were talking for some reason. I don't know. I feel like conversations with really close friends are like you're talking about like the weather, and then you're talking about like your deepest trauma, and then you're talking about like the comedian that you saw the other day, and then you're talking about like your dog, and then you're talking about like
Yeah.
seeing the face of God.
Right, and it's all equal. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you're just like, oh my God, yeah, like me too, like blah blah blah.
Mhm.
So it came up in that kind of conversation where we were all kind of sharing certain things related to like the supernatural or like,
Mhm.
you know, higher realms. Sorry. She's a curious.
Fussing around.
Yeah.
Fussing around. All right, cool.
Yeah. So it kind of came up then, and I was like, oh shit, I like totally forgot about
What? That, I mean, like the level of casualness around seeing the face of God, like you don't even remember in the face. But
maybe that's on purpose.
and maybe God's like, yeah, like you don't get to
Redact.
remember,
Yeah.
but it isn't a feeling. I mean, don't you feel like most things that stick with you are more about the feeling? Like,
Absolutely.
I can't always even remember what my dad looked like if I think about it.
Yeah.
But I can, like, if he were in a room, I'd like be like, oh, his energy, you know, or
Absolutely.
yeah, or
Yeah.
even his voice. But then, you know,
Sometimes, I mean, that's like the essence of a thing is way more powerful than
yeah,
the, you know,
Yeah.
aesthetics.
because that's the real thing is the
Exactly,
energy.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I am gonna switch gears again. So the painting behind me is called Four of Cups,
Yeah.
which is a tarot card. And making it, you knew what it meant.
Yes. So I have a friend, Izzy, that loves tarot. I have other friends that love tarot too. If you're at home and you have your tarot, like bring it out.
Bring it out, or you want us to do a reading for you at the end when we get to the Q&A section? Maybe.
Bring it out. Yeah. I
Yeah,
love
we can
that.
do
It'll be
that.
so
Okay.
fun.
But anyway.
So when she comes over, she lives like 5 minutes away. She'll sometimes bring her mini tarot deck, and we'll do like just like one card reading of like kind of just for fun. Like she's not like super woo woo as you put it, but she is like down to see what it says.
Curiosity.
Curiosity. So I'm familiar. And I was making this painting and there were 4 cups in it. And
we'll add it to the YouTube video. And for those at home, you can Google 4 Cups by Samantha Rosenwald.
Yes. But I just thought it was like a perfect link between.
Well, and so 4 Cups is like a rejection card. Did she do a reading for you on 4 Cups?
No, I formed my own.
Okay, yeah. What's
perception
your
of 4 Cups?
Okay,
which is sort of being so self-centered that you don't see what's being handed to you on a silver platter sometimes, and you're just so absorbed in your own world, and you're like wishing for something, wanting something that you can't see that something similar is being offered to you, or like hope is being given to you, but you're so like absorbed in yourself wallowing.
Yeah, it's not a positive one. It's
like a spoiled kind of
a little spoiled or a little
indulgent,
yeah,
like kind of indulging in your sadness.
Yeah, I got that a lot last year in the early half of the year.
I mean,
and I was like, you know, I mean, you got to own it when it shows up in your life. But yeah, just thinking about your practice and your themes that you're working with around, like keeping up with the Joneses and the exclusivity and the endless pursuit that is like the fashion industry, the art world, and pretty much capitalism making everything that way, because otherwise it wouldn't keep going. I think 4 Cups is actually really good because that's kind of like, there's a tarot reading that's called like the Celtic Cross, and one of the card placements is like your hopes and fears. And 4 Cups is kind of like that hopes and fears card, because it's like your worst fear is that you'll be rejected by someone because you don't, I mean, or by a group or whatever, because you're not fitting in. But then you also kind of want to be the one like rejecting others because you're like the exclusive club that other people don't get to be in because you're like aligning or whatever. I don't know. So it feels like this
like
kind
an
of
intentional rejection.
Yeah.
You're afraid of what the alternative would be.
Or yeah, and maybe less like kind of mopey and more about like self-involved, where you know, it can feel good to be the one who gets the thing and gets to say no to people. Like, I think especially if you're like younger and like kind of trying it out, you know, being the one who can exclude versus being excluded.
Yeah.
You know, even though like sometimes being the excluder isn't explicit, it's more like implied.
It's an attitude.
Yeah, it's an attitude. Yeah. Whereas I think, yeah, and that's part of scarcity, right? Is like someone has to be excluded. So like, is it going to be you or is it going to be someone else?
Yeah, absolutely. That's an interesting take on it too, because when I was making this painting, I was thinking about the interpretation of the 4 of Cups being about like so much self-absorption that you can't see what's being given to you.
Yeah, the good in life.
The good in life, like just like this whiny sort of attitude about like, you know, let me just like drown myself in my sadness.
Yeah.
At the same time that some salvation might be coming towards me.
Right, but you're like drinking or whatever
exactly.
Your self-destructive vice is. And you can't see it.
And so this show that I'm working on now is all about the setting of the dive bar. So all of the paintings, half of them are about pinball, and they're like fictive pinball games that are based on like chapters of my life.
Oh, cool.
And then the other half are vignettes of a dive bar like setting or scenario, and they paint like little moments that might happen. So in this painting, I wanted it to be like these 4 women that are dressed to the nines, just so self-involved, indulging in the food and the beer and the little like aperitif that gets you like really fucked up.
Oh yeah.
Really strong.
Limoncello or something.
Yeah, it's called Underberg,
Oh.
and it's basically
German?
a loophole in a jar. It's like
What?
it's incredibly strong. So people that don't have a liquor license, it's technically an aperitif,
Oh wow.
but they can still serve it. So then a bunch of people like
to get wasted on
shots.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my god.
Disgusting.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Whoa.
The woman in this painting is taking it the way that
Oh, I
everyone takes it.
see. Okay.
You put your teeth on it on the counter and then you like shoot it back.
Oh
It's
wow.
like this tiny little.
To be young again and drinking all kinds of terrible.
I know. I'm almost 31, but I'm still like, oh my god, I'm too old for this shit.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Amazing. Oh yeah, I see it now because I was kind of wondering like the introduction of like the video game imagery or framing is new.
Yeah, exactly. So those are like the themes that I'm working with. And
Have you ever done animation?
I took a class in it at CCA actually. It was
okay.
you're allowed to take one undergrad class. And
So
the
cool.
one that I took was like digital skills and graphic design. But there was a part of that class that was about like animating digital imagery.
Yeah, I feel like seeing, I mean, I don't know how you do it time-wise, but seeing these things come to life would be really amazing.
I think that would be awesome. I mean, I like doing it by hand just
I was
because it's
gonna
like
say
so much
that
more
would be
intimate.
so cool to see that, but I mean, well,
It would be incredibly time consuming, and to do it entirely digital would feel like almost like a slap in the face.
there's got to be someone who knows how to like, I don't want to say AI, but like take your drawing and then be able to
Make it
move
move.
people's faces or something.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm sure I've seen the weirdest fucking AI.
exactly. I'm like, I know they can
Yeah.
do it. Yeah, but it's already been done a million
Yeah.
times. They just don't tell us.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could see that being really cool because I feel like off screen there's this one that says Rage Cage, and it's like this couple, yeah, you're bringing over like ready to fight in their living room. Feels very pandemic. It's not a pandemic.
It is
one.
about the pandemic.
Amazing. You know, and I can totally see this like getting animated. I don't know why.
I would love to see
And
that.
see their like eyebrows going up and down.
Yeah, so much of it is the eyebrows.
Mhm.
That convey
Yeah,
the
yeah.
anger
And just
frustration.
the mouth like
Yeah, I mean, if anyone wants to help me animate these,
yeah, hit her up.
drop a comment.
Drop a comment in the chat. So back to fashion. You used to do a lot of shoes made of things that aren't like normal shoe materials. So which of the shoes that you remember drawing would you actually want as your own shoes?
Oh my god. Honestly, all of them.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's only one answer.
There were so many that were so fun because I had a whole show that was called Shoe Show.
Was that the Gladstone one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
And they were all just like surreal shoes.
I know, I'm trying to remember even what all they were, but I remember thinking like these are all amazing. Someone needs to make these.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Balenciaga, give me a shout. There was one though that was like a woman's foot and her toenails and like the tips of her fingernail or like her toes were like hanging over and her toenails were like creeping on the floor, and then the heel of the shoe was also like a hand.
So gross.
So the whole shoe, I'd imagine, would like crawl like that.
Yeah,
I would wear that.
Yeah.
That's the first one that jumped out to me as like, that'd be sick.
that would be sick.
With like a little black dress.
Yeah,
Just really casual.
really classy, simple,
Yeah.
minimalist, and then like fucked up shoe.
Yes.
Excuse my language.
Oh, I've been saying
It's okay.
bad words. I'm sorry.
Do you have a favorite designer?
Oh my gosh. I don't know. I really, for myself, because I can't buy like crazy designers, I love Gani.
Oh,
which is Gani is more like a step down. It's more affordable, not necessarily super
not like
affordable.
Pret-a-Porter or couture level?
No. Yeah.
Okay.
I love Gani. I love Loewe. I love Valentino. I mean,
Yeah, who would you wear to the Met Ball? Or would you design your own?
I would wear Loewe because
Oh, yeah.
that shit slaps like every time. I don't know. I feel like especially their like Met Ball looks, their runway looks are like
They've been really
no
good.
skips, like all hits.
Nice.
And just like the artistry behind what they do is like so impressive and inspiring.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and where can people find you if they're looking to follow your most recent updates on your work or, like any kind of news?
Yeah, I have a website, which is samanthajrosenwald.com. And I also have an Instagram, which is Samantha Rosenwald. So
Yeah, so jump on there if you're not on the
jump on
band.
down.
Jump on down.
The water's fine.
Hey. Well, thank you so much for being on, everybody, for those listening or watching along at home. Deeply grateful to have you as part of the community. I'm Thibault, and I would say, I'm trying to do these live talks once a month, so you could follow along to find out when the next one is. Actually on my art date Substack, that I am no longer on Instagram. If you go to my personal Instagram, you will notice the latest post is me saying I'm no longer going to be on it. And so at least for a couple months, I'm not going to be. We'll see if my entire career plan like crashes and burns because I'm not on this one app. But for now, I'm going to try to regain my sanity by not being on it. So you can go to artdate.substack.com. And then I'm also playing with the idea of creating a Patreon account just for the podcast to keep them a little bit separate. But right now I'm doing all my posting and my art related stuff and other workshops and stuff on there. So hope to see you there. And then new episodes every Thursday. So, tune in wherever you find your podcasts. If you're listening, you can always go to YouTube. And thank you for sharing, rating, and reviewing the podcast, because I know that's what you're going to just go home and do that.
Like and subscribe.
And subscribe. That's true. Yeah, if you're on YouTube, right down there, I guess, right?
I've never got to say that in like an appropriate setting.
Wait,
so.
do it again. When we're
Like and subscribe if you've liked what you've seen.
okay, we might take that out. Okay, thank you so much, you guys. Have a great night.
Bye.
That's all for this week's episode. Thank you so much for listening. This was your host, Thibault, with sound editing help by Natasha Lowy. If you love this episode, please share it with a friend, write us a review, and give us 5 stars for good karma points. To watch along, subscribe to our YouTube channel and see all of our videos and live talk recordings there. Thanks so much for listening. See you next time on The Sidewoo.